is like the perfect day to catch the sun and dance away. All my friends right by my side, they're lighting up the darkest night. Now they play our favorite song. Everybody sing along. The sunlight makes me smile. My friends are dropping by. No one will break my stride. This is a good time, I'm feeling fine.
Welcome back, everybody. We are here at the LCK Spring 2020. It is me, Valdez, with little sanitation here. He's got his gloves with him today just to make sure that none of the corona gets anywhere. Not on his hands, not on me. He's got the gloves. Why don't you show everybody the... Yeah.
This isn't for Corona, Valdez. It's for Morello.
Oh, okay. You got to protect yourself just in case.
Yeah.
Because we have been having a lot of sinners recently, as
really
you have
have.
been gone. But you have been watching and tuning in and seeing the amount of Morellonomicons that have been built in very strange situations, and a lot of sinning comps I would feel as well. Doesn't make me feel great, but I don't know how you felt about that. How does it feel to be back casting the LCK?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling
Okay.
good. You know, I'm looking forward to it today.
Yeah.
We got a nice matchup to kick things off here. We got APK versus DragonX, and I'm actually really curious to see how APK is going to manage to stack up against DragonX, because I feel like APK is actually not getting the attention that they should be for one of the lower standing teams. I mean, they're actually in dead last, but I would say that a lot of their games looks more impressive than Sandbox, KT, and Griffin in general, which is not something that you would probably expect out of a bottom place team. Obviously, DragonX on the left-hand side, 4-2 right now, and they're the most simple of teams that we have in the LCK.
They've also ate a couple of losses in a row. Remember, they were 4-0, and then they had a couple of losses that didn't look all that good, actually. A one tilty loss up against Gen G. So we'll have to see if they can kick it back here up against APK as we are going into the point of the match. Prince Expedition. This time it's DragonX Raid Quest. I have no idea what I'm reading. Can they slay the dragon to get out of the 10th place?
Well, let's see if they can manage to bring it down. T1 Gen G, DragonX fell 2 times in a row to strong teams, and I think a lot of that was a byproduct of their drafts. I think that despite how catastrophically terrible some of the early games and drafts were for them, they did manage to actually put up a bit of a fight, which was very surprising. So we'll obviously see what can end up happening here today, as the next one, Doran farming up EXP versus Ixu, level 18 already. Not sure what that means. I think
I
you're
don't
looking
know.
a little bit bewildered.
Oh, I guess because he's the veteran, so he's spent a lot of time on the Rift, so he's already level 18 up against a rookie in Doran. As we take a look at some of the stats here, I feel like the stats will be stats. A lot of it depends on comps and how they go, but one thing to look at is that APK actually gets a lot of first turrets, which, again, their early games I feel like are not that great, but once they hit the mid game, they seem to fall apart a little bit. But in their recent win over KT, by the way, KT defeating both Afrika and Sandbox back-to-back, so KT obviously a good team, and APK defeated them in a best of 3. So it's obvious that they have the ability to do it, and they were able to put that together, as unfortunately APK is lacking a lot on the Infernal Drakes, whereas DragonX has been racking them up. But you can see the Cloud Drake stat very high for all the teams here in the LCK.
And I wish there was maybe more to that stat, because it's not like the current Dragons are just something that every team ignores in favor of other ones. So that's actually just APK rolling really unfortunate.
Yeah.
Whenever Infernal is coming up. As taking a look at some of these highlights here, Flawless with the Cataclysm, flag and drag, and calculated. That's what that was on the Jarvan. As just some more fights breaking out here against T1. And I think that this matchup, one of the most interesting dynamics, I'm unsure if it's going to be a player point, is actually Chovy versus Kaney. And the reason that I say that is primarily because Kaney's mana management in lane, I think, is the least effective of every mid
the
laner.
worst.
Well, Valdez, you didn't have to go there.
Yeah, you know, I couldn't.
Any mid laner in the LCK, and it feels like he has the most vulnerable laning, and he's going up against the most stable laner in mid lane. And so I think that dynamic is going to be very interesting. Doran going to be getting a taste of something up in top lane with the way the meta is, as we're going to take a look at the key player. It's actually going to be Flawless versus Pioshik, which is...
I don't know. I feel like out of all of the players on both teams, this might have been the least likely. But
yeah,
I suppose they want to give these two players a chance to get their faces out there on stage. I can't really think of any other reason there, as Pioshik at least is doing pretty well in terms of KDA and kill participation. Definitely likes to be active. He's not necessarily a guy that's just going to sit back and farm up, as control wards per minute is that stat that Flawless is second in actually all of the junglers in the LCK.
Interestingly enough, I'm actually not a fan of stats like this. I think when you're overbuying control wards, it's not necessarily something that's good. It's one of those stats that it really leads you to a question. It doesn't actually tell you a whole lot. As we're looking at the starting roster today, what you'll notice is that Trigger is actually starting, and typically when he's come out, he's been on some of the more unorthodox AD carry champions, as everything else is going to remain the standard here.
Yeah.
As we're going to see what DragonX is doing now. Doran will be starting up there in the top lane.
I'm glad you pointed that out about Trigger. He's played one game of Morgana and one game of Aphelios, and that's it, actually, for APK so far. He's 1-1, which is probably a pretty good win rate for being on a team that is 1-5 in match score.
Yeah. And obviously everything else looking really standard here for DragonX. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Straight into the pick ban. We don't have any player entries anymore, as we're trying to cut down on the amount of being near other people.
Okay.
We're very, what do they call it?
Conscientious.
Agoraphobic. We don't like to.
Is that what it is?
Oh no, I think that's fear of being outside.
What is fear of Morellonomicon?
Morellophobic. Yeah, you're probably the most morellophobic caster that we have in all of League of Legends.
All right. Well,
man, I have to write down the pick ban again because Atlas is gone.
Oh, back
the
to
Valdanalis is gone now. He's
back to that.
Yeah, I'm back to the doing the work here on the desk.
Well, APK opening with Zoe and Lucian being banned away, so not the most common of bans that I would be expecting against DRX, but Renekton banned away is so peculiar. The ornament finally going to get put up on the tree.
He's been up there for quite a while. He hasn't seen play this entire week, as he's been banned every single game. As they finally realized it by week 4. I know it was kind of slow by your standards, but we got there.
And Soraka's not banned. What? Glad to be back, Valdez.
Well, the thing is if they pick Soraka, then Olaf Yumi could come on the next one.
Well, now Soraka Yumi can come.
Yeah, that is true.
You could just combine it right now, so we're all sinners here in the LCK.
You're back just on time for first pick Olaf.
You have to take one of them, because otherwise B2B3 Soraka Yumi is a completely fine lock-in. This Trundle pick is very peculiar. It's being done in a vacuum to counter the Olaf, and I think it's a very bizarre pivot away from the Jarvan that just typically locks him up inside of the Cataclysm, and it doesn't really provide all that much else. And we see this sometimes in the LCK, where they'll end up digressing back to very old picks. We've seen it with Gnar most recently, and it's just such a bizarre thing because you'll have power picks like monsters like Karthus just go unseen for months, but then somehow monstrosities like Trundle end up making
he really
his way.
is a monstrosity.
Yeah, so,
I
you
mean,
know.
just look at him.
I was going for a pun there, you know?
Yeah. No, it worked. And they're saying, okay, you can do whatever shenanigans you want. We're going to try to get Senna, Tom Kench, but they could even, I mean, you could try to...
They can B2B3 Yuumi Soraka right
Yeah.
now. And it's
win the game.
completely acceptable. There's so many 80 carries open, it's impossible to pinch. I think they're going to do it.
I mean,
Just
why
B3 Yuumi.
not exactly? I don't think there's really any reason not to.
And the thing, why would...
You're back just on time to get tilted at the drafts. We've been having a lot of similar ones in recent times. I mean,
So,
now it's just a super easy ban
is
for
that
DragonX.
The Trundle's getting effectiveness. You know that the Senna is probably going to be paired with the Tom Kench because that's just what Korea does. And so the Nautilus has no effectiveness. Makes virtually no sense in a vacuum. It's not achieving anything that a Yuumi wouldn't achieve. Yuumi's ultimate would actually have more value because it could lock up more potential targets, scale harder, has further synergy with the Soraka, and you know that there's nothing that the Senna is going to be paired with that would be threatening a Yuumi. So, because the 80 carry pool is so wide open, it's impossible for them to ban anything away that you wouldn't be able to go into. And so it's so peculiar to see stuff like this, and
It drives you mad. I know. I can tell. And the only thing that I will say is that Secret is a guy that loves playing his kind of melee supports, the tanky supports. He has 5 games of Nautilus so far, 3 games of Leona. So that's, I guess, probably a pick he's not comfortable on, the Yuumi. And he probably says, no, like, we have Soraka. Let me play what I'm comfortable on. I'm good at the Nautilus. And it's probably just a pick that is picked because a player is, you know, not proficient in every single support champion that comes in here.
And LeBlanc now being banned away, along with the Aurelia. Syndra also banned. That's actually a very good pick against Soraka in general. Able to lock and actually burst through her despite her typical magic resistance builds early. And Rumble is now picked up. We could see an Echo actually come in for APK. Echo is one of the other traditional answers to the Rumble, and then also has a lot of effectiveness against the Trundle and the Rumble in general. Jace, this is really interesting. Monomune Jace with Presence of Mind is, I think, some undiscovered technology. I talked about this a lot on some streams recently, and it's really nice to actually see Jace coming out here today. It is a pick that can go toe-to-toe with Rumble, also has the ability to be flexed mid and top lane, so you can allocate the Soraka as you please, and again, trigger on a non-traditional champion.
Yeah.
Is going to be on the Ziggs down there in bot lane, and so the APK draft, it has some stuff going for it, and in a vacuum, it does just outscale the DRX team composition. Now, I don't know if it's going to be enough to close the discrepancy that we assume to be present between the individual skill on both teams, but they definitely have a win going for them. This is likely going to be the funnel Senna down in bot lane.
Absolutely.
And so the Tom Kench is going to be stronger than he typically is, but the problem is there's so much poke on the enemy team. That's the thing Tom hates the most.
Yeah, and we've been seeing that a lot, actually, that it has dealt really well with this duo down in the bottom side. So I feel like APK's draft is, you know, outside of not picking the Yuumi in that one moment is not half bad. You got to give him credit for it, especially Kaney bringing out the Jace here, which is a high-level mechanical-wise, I suppose, one way to say it, champion. And he's going up against a really strong opponent in Chovy in the mid lane, and it just adds so much poke to their lineup with Ziggs and the Jace to go along with everything else they have. So pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah. Well, let's see what this is going to manage to accomplish for APK here in game number 1. They have a counter pick top lane, that is going to be favorable. So Soraka wins against Aatrox in a vacuum. The Jace is able to go toe-to-toe and neutralize the effectiveness of Rumble, even able to kill him depending on how early trades go. Obviously, the Olaf able to outpace the Trundle. And then Ziggs and Nautilus is going to be favorable for them in bot lane. So APK get pretty much everything that they could want. And now it's just how are they going to manage to pilot it?
Yeah, that is a good question. The drafts. This is something you've talked about before where people can write off drafts because one team will win over the other because they're so much better. And that might just happen here between these two teams.
One of the things that is a little bit problematic as soon as we take a look at the runes is double scorch on both Jace and Soraka. And when your team composition is trying to just basically neutralize the mid and top lane, scale into the 10, 20, 30 minute mark and then win out there, it's very bizarre to have this rune when you're not likely going to be able to achieve solo kills, especially Soraka up in top lane.
Yeah, I mean the Scourge will help a tiny bit in terms of poking him out in the early levels, 1, 2, 3, 4, but once you get past that, I think the Gathering Storm would have been much better for later on in the game, for the scaling, for the healing, and he is going to be missing out on that for just a slight, tiny little win in the lane, as we've been having a ridiculous amount of Senna and Tahm Kench in the bottom side, and already they're looking to have some fun here.
And so Tahm is going to be the one that's farming. If this is your first time seeing this, this was originally, I believe, popularized by a Chinese duo in Korean solo queue, first debuted in pro play by Cloud9, and now obviously Korea utilizing it here as well in competitive. So Senna going to constantly poke with the support item, and all the farm is going to go to Tahm Kench. It's going to allow him to be more effective in the mid game. And Senna basically is an AD carry as well because of her souls that she ends up picking up. So ends up being very oppressive. There's obviously a lot of room for growth inside of this bot lane combo. You don't just have to do this with Tahm. There's a lot of other support picks. This could go with like Zac, Galio, other tanks, even mages, or double AD carry.
Double AD carry, that's interesting. We haven't seen that one yet. So far in LCK, they like to be very conservative, and generally they will just go with what they know, and that is going to be the Senna Tahm Kench. We haven't seen any other kind of funnel Senna comp going on here as a big trade in the top side, but Doran is not going to be able to do too much up against Ixu.
And Ixu, I think he's just looking for a crash, but he's a little bit too slow now. The next wave has almost arrived. He does have Olaf in close proximity, obviously with the barrier, not in any danger against Doran, but he is out farming him, which is a little surprising. Trundle didn't end up doing one of his camps, and so everything is fine right now. Doran places a ward, but the wave is coming into Doran, so doesn't really have to be in any danger. Flawless going to clear out that ward. Ixu should really just be looking for a recall. It's very bizarre. He's being so conservative with his mana, and you can see he's not actually achieving anything. And so, constantly, the next wave always ends up arriving at roughly the same spot, and they just keep doing this little song and a dance. And so, if you're Soraka, if you view this in a vacuum, you're like, well, I'm not really achieving anything. My opponent isn't either. But is there a way for me to get a crash, get a recall off, and then pull the waves in to where I can then effectively zone my opponent and lock them into lane? And Ixu could be looking for that, not doing it. And so Doran's not feeling that bad about this either.
Yeah, they're kind of just chilling up in the top side so far. At least Ixu is winning on the CS. Down in the bottom lane, you'll notice that the poke out of Senna can be quite annoying. Trigger here does have the teleport. He's looking to back on potentially not a cannon wave and just try to TP right away. He's going to do that. Shouldn't lose too much, but will lose a bit down here, as both the junglers have kind of avoided the lanes outside of Flawless, checking up on the top side on the ward. As might have our first gank, as Pyosik is looking towards the mid lane. Kane is going to be bopped towards the Trundle as he's being burned down, but has to flash away. And so, nice little effective gank comes in there, as Flawless might look to help push the lane and get Kane out of this one.
gonna need some assistance. Doesn't want to take all of the solo XP. That could be a little problematic. Chovy gonna end up recalling likely soon. Getting the boots for his Predator. Tiamat picked up on Trundle. That way he can keep up with the Olaf in terms of clear speed and still remain relevant. Now, the gold score is completely even right now. So this is winning for APK when stuff like this is happening. Obviously, the Senna and the Tom Kench down there in bot lane. I don't know how many souls Senna has currently, but that's the real objective that you need to be looking for. Double longsword picked up as well. Pioshik ends up getting the Gromp. I think Deft can go over. He's not paying attention.
Get it. No! Come on!
That's really strange that they didn't mention that to each other.
Ping it, or, you
Yeah.
know.
Or, I mean, even Deft's screen, if he just hit spacebar, he would be able to see.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't doing that, and he gets back to lane. I suppose the lane was pushing back, and he didn't want to take the potential time to just, you know, head over the wall and pick up the soul. Trigger getting some items. You'll notice he went double Doran's here, which is going to make him a little bit more tanky and help out in poking down Deft in the lane. The laning phase should get a little bit easier with that choice.
Wallace gonna end up getting the red buff, chasing down Pioshik. And Pioshik uses the pillar to interrupt, create the little blockade. Wallace gonna go for the Raptors now as well. Has the smite coming up. Gets that to boot.
Yeah, the Trundle not really able to farm as effectively or as quickly as the Olaf, so as the game is extremely passive to start, Flawless is having a nice little time. He's got almost as much CS as his most effective CSer in a lane in the Jace.
Yeah. And when we look at the XP point, Chovy is quite a bit ahead of Kaney in there in mid. Doran is also up quite a bit on Ixu. Not quite sure the size of the minion wave, though. As Aatrox, he picked up the Executioner's Calling, first item. Soraka with the Ninja Tabai is going to be pretty much impervious now against any sort of ganks or poke that Aatrox tries to put out. And an Abyssal Voyage, not really sure.
Cancelled.
Yeah.
So he's going to have that available still for the rest of the game, as yeah, they're just looking to push out of this lane as it's not been too friendly to the likes of Trigger and Secret down in the bottom side. And because they're leaving, Pioshik will say, this objective is mine. Ixu still having a bit of trouble up in the top side. Doran really chunking him down.
Yeah.
And Ixu had to take barrier for the lane, which means that might be part of the reason why he's falling behind on XP. He had to back at kind of an awkward time the last time he got comboed. And it looks like Doran's keeping that combo up once again.
And right now, I mean, without any action really going on, everyone's just sort of coasting into the mid game for free. Now, they're rotating some of their members here in order to get this Rift Herald. Now, this is one of those interesting spots where Kaney is going to have to turn back as Rumble has the ability to instantly push. And right now, we're in a mini lull state.
We started this game in the lull state.
We did start this in the lull state.
We were born into the lull state in this one.
And it's very bizarre how this is going on for so many. Oh, man.
Oh, boy. Okay, well, you finally got it. At least Rumble wasn't pushing hard or anything as he went for a back. Secret really hasn't been on point with those dredge lines today. He's been having a bit of trouble with that.
Bot lane, a little rough right now. Tom Kench with the Giant's Belt and the Cloth Armor, as well as a Ninja Tabai so far. As they're doing pretty good in the CS department down there in bot lane. Unsure again how many souls Senna has. That's the real objective.
Yeah.
That we need to be paying attention to, but DRX is just naturally ahead
Oh,
from
he hit
laning
one.
phase. Yeah, only to get negated by a Tom Kench Devour. So
Yeah. Keep in mind, they knew that was coming As the combo's coming out here from Deft and Carria just saying we want to try to push Trigger out of the lane, but he's got 2 biscuits on top of what looks like a health potion that's sticking right now. Might have been a 3rd biscuit. So I don't think he should be in too much trouble here. It's a nice little trade in the mid lane by Kaney over Chovy. Has the blue buff, so he's really just trying to throw a bunch of darts. And now Ixu's here. They've kind of just come into the mid lane and look for a push now with Shelly.
Yeah, this is a bit of an awkward timing, though. There's no minions to help with buffer. And you can see the collapse coming in by DRX, but APK is going to manage to back off, also collects the turret plates. And so, all things considered, it's not that catastrophic. DRX is only up about 700 right now, and that's not a lot for the mid-game teamfights. Especially not considering DRX basically has champions that peak at 2 items.
He
Ixu,
might
though!
just die. As okay, Blasting Plant gonna save another life here. As Flawless is coming in, we still have the Wish available for Ixu. Doran, can he try to flip this one? 1v2 is the question. He's just gonna try to run. And he will be successful in that, as Flawless is just going to come in here and try to push the lane. And again, we saw this the other day. As long as Soraka doesn't die and doesn't get too far behind,
yeah,
should be totally fine to scale up.
Totally fine. Has the Fiendish Codex. And
oh boy.
even in the Soraka...
He's going to get flashed on here. Forces a flash. They're looking to dive. They have the Wish. He is so dead. Doran, with a bit of a mistake there, gets baited into going down and gives the kill in first blood to APK.
And that's a really rough place to also give the first blood. The Olaf is enabled by the Soraka, and just really effective at dogging down some of the champions on DRX, and then also Soraka getting the gold, accelerating faster to her core items. It is a really big mistake because Doran had really nice CS advantage, and now that's just going to end up being invalidated for the most part, as they're going to rotate some of the members here into mid lane. Gold score near even, 50 seconds until Infernal Dragon ends up coming up, and that's a very important pickup for DRX. So if we take a look at this, Starfall ends up coming out, slowing Doran. Flash comes out of Flawless.
Ooh.
And like you mentioned, Wish is available.
Never even has to use it. And there was a ward in the river that could have seen the Olaf run away, but I think that Doran wasn't paying attention to that. He was just like, hey, the Soraka's probably backing in there. I should probably try to stop her. And he didn't think twice to not go for that play. So might have a little bit of a, nope, they were considering going for a dive down on the bottom side now that the Infernal's about to spawn. They turn back on it as now APK getting really aggressive, looking for the engage onto the Tom Connects. Great double knock up here, but do they have the damage to burst through? They do not, as Secret is going to be the first one to go down. As Kaney a little bit too late to the party. Carria looking to go over here and catch Kaney. It's not going to work out, but the kill still is going to be effective, as DragonX should be able to pick up this Infernal Drink now.
Yeah, they're going to be able to get this. And that was a very clutch timing for them to end up getting that kill right there. Oh!
Ooh, nice try.
Yeah. Nice attempt there by Trigger.
He didn't have his Mega Inferno bomb available, as trying to go on to Chovy now, but the Shock Blast is going to miss.
And Ixu just trying to heal up Kaney a little bit. Ends up spotting that control ward in the left-hand side brush. They're going to clear that out really quick. And again, it's only a 1,000 gold lead. Yes, they do have the Infernal Dragon. That's very important for a team composition that starts decaying rapidly post 2 items. Although Rumble, I guess he actually has value to go into Executioners this game.
Oh, they're looking to engage into the turret right in front of a Tom Kent's. That is going to be a bit of a mistake, but Stopwatch, best item in the game. Can it survive, or help them survive here? It is absolutely, as everybody knows and loves, the best item. Stopwatch saves another life here as it stops time and allows this turret to go down.
APK getting first turret of the game. Doesn't even come into Zig's lane, and it's a very big turret to pick up right there in mid lane, as there's not any control mages on the side of DRX. And I just misspoke a brief second ago. I didn't mean Executioner for a moment. I meant Morello actually has value here.
Okay, yeah.
And you're probably going to want to pair the Executioner on the Senna, who has it as well. So everything's looking a little fantastic about this. I got, you know.
Finally, you know, they're getting it. They're building the items when they really deserve to be built. The items feeling pretty good about themselves as well. Trying to burst down Shirley here is DragonX. Should be able to comfortably get it. Flawless is not going to go in there, but they're looking for a re-engage afterwards. Flawless going to force into that Ragnarok a little bit earlier. Koyosik in the pit, but a huge combo comes out there from the Senna and the Rumble. And APK have baited themselves into this fight. Kaney is going to be chased down here, or tried to be chased down by Doran. But it looks like Flawless is going to be the first one that does go down before him. Ixu also on the run is going to go down. The flash forward from Keria, trying to get that slow, but he actually dies. Let's hope it's worth it for him, as yes, it will be. The follow-up kill will be picked up by Doran, picking up the double kill.
And this is pretty catastrophic right now for APK. These fights are so disjointed and needless in nature, all things considered. Because you ask yourself, what is the real reason to be fighting or grouping right now, as we're going to go to a replay from a very long time ago.
Yeah, this is from 2 days ago.
Yeah, this is from yesteryear.
Yeah,
As
last week Wednesday.
Kyria gets locked up, but League of Stopwatch pretty good. Soraka had Wish, didn't elect to use it. And right here, there's no reason to be fighting. There are jungle camps up, there's Scuttlecrab on the right-hand side, waves in mid, waves in bottom. This isn't a team fight that you want to be fighting because you're so disjointed and split up that it's so favorable for DRX to take it when this is going to be the positioning by both of the teams at this exact moment. So, cohesion not really there all that much, as DRX, they find themselves with a very big victory at a very clutch moment, and now we come back into live. It's a 3,000 gold lead, and APK pushing up in mid.
Yeah, you got to be so careful when you're playing this kind of composition. You have a lot of poke, you have a lot of scaling. Just chill, just sit back. You don't have to force fights after they get Shirley. They got the objective, okay, that's fine. Defend the push. You have a ton of wave clear with Jason and Six.
Right.
Just sit back behind your turret, let her get the charge off, and continue scaling.
And it's completely fine. It's Shirley without turret plates.
Yeah.
So, congratulations. You got 100 gold. You got chip damage onto a turret. You're not going to lose the game over that.
Yeah. They I don't know who's making the call, but Secret went in there, tried to land the dredge line. Perhaps if they were able to pick off one person and disengage, but the positioning was also pretty atrocious as they all grouped up for the equalizer. They got to be a bit cleaner if APK, with their nice draft, want to follow that up with a nice win. As so far, they're still going to be behind here against DragonX. We do have the Mountain Soul. It's not Soul Point yet, as they're looking for a pick here once again. Yosik just got a face check, and that's a really nice devour that will save his life. It might just be the winning play here for DragonX, as everybody on the side of APK will be routed and on the escape path. Thankfully, another blasting plan is going to save Ixu's life, but that plan absolutely backfired as Keria is on top of his devours tonight.
And Sir Thomas walking around there, strutting his stuff with the dead man's plate. Picked it up off the guy, you know.
Yeah.
That's where he got the plate, yeah.
He's a big boy. I love these big Tom Kenches. They're just impervious to damage.
Trundle got 4 MR off of the Mountain Dragon. So it was a very big pickup. As you take a look at this, and the Tom Kench Devour just changes everything, and everyone clumped up. We can't do it. Just go eat Dragon, then go mid.
Yeah, meanwhile, Tom Kench picks up all the assists. Senna's 2-0-3, stacking the souls, has the support item completed here on top of the, what's that item called? The Umbral Glaive, I think it's called?
Umbral Glaive, yes.
Yes, okay, got it there.
Correct, Valdez.
And he's going to be looking at a third item here soon. So it's a lot of free/cheap stuff that stacks on top of all of the souls. Not to mention that he's picking up a lot of kills along this game as we have entered the team fighting stage. And so Death's going to be feeling just fine.
It really feels like this game is getting a bit out of control for APK to even try to stabilize. The other thing that's very surprising is Jace is opting into lethality items even though targets on the enemy side of DRX were already stacking armor. And then it doesn't serve him that much of a purpose unless he's really trying to buy in to the Black Cleaver armor shred, giving him value via the Olaf. But a little surprising, as this was not the Monoflow band Presence of Mind Monomune Jace.
Yeah. Generally, you said maybe he's opting into the Black Cleaver help, but I don't know if our players here are thinking that far, to be honest. Based on some of the purchases we have seen in the past. But,
and yeah, I mean, just very bizarre. You would think that the Jace would want to go into the poke kind of nature with the Ziggs. And then obviously having the Soraka disengage available via the Starfall and the Silence that she's able to place down, but there's going to be a little bit of lull state now as Infinite Wave Clear is on the side of APK. Baron is up, but probably going to end up being a little while. And you can just see all of the grievous wounds that are built on the side of DRX in order to manage this Soraka.
Blue Buff's going on vacation here.
He got brought down in the middle of a river.
Yeah.
A little unfortunate.
That's the power of Sir Thomas Kench. Do you feel like his title has been reinstated now that with Senna?
I think when Senna is down there with him, I think he does get the title back, but any other time, he's still Tim.
Yeah. Poor Timmy.
Yeah. Well.
He's not poor Tim today. He is the thickest of Sir Thomas Kenches in this game, as he's going to be looking at a stone plate on top of the Deadman's plate. So he's pretty much going to be impervious. And remember how we talked about how Stopwatch is the best item in the game? Well, the Devourer is kind of like a mini stopwatch if you think about it. And that's the reason why Thomas Kench is never leaving the meta. For years and years and years, he will just be here as long as he has Devour.
He's going to end up getting reworked at some point.
They're going to take away Devour.
That'll be really sad.
Make him an assassin.
Well, the really awkward thing about this.
Speaking of assassins, Keria is essentially going to run him down here in his own assassination way.
That's a support.
Yeah, he's dead. I don't know why.
I don't know why they used Wish or Redemption.
Yeah, really no reason. 3-on-1. Maybe he thought that he could get there on time with the Wambulance, but it didn't look promising as...
I love seeing Olaf do this. It's my favorite thing in the world.
You want to break that down for us?
After the series is over, I'm going to have to go back in the VOD here and clip that.
Yeah.
That's...
It's like when you take a picture of Morello's, you just have to get the clips of all the times
that's one
that
of my
Olaf
favorite things to see.
Runs it down. And this has been what has been plaguing APK for quite a while, as something's going to be plaguing Ixu here, and it's not coronavirus, it's all of DragonX, as he's actually going to survive. As okay, trying to turn this one around. Secret is here, trying to front line. And now Ixu's actually running at them, saying, get out of my lane. And yeah, there you have it. That's the power of Soraka. Didn't even need the wish that time around. Survives 1v3 underneath the turret, and the action never ends. As we're going for a Mountain Soul now on the side of APK. And I've said this before, Ziggs is really good at stealing objectives. I don't want to see his ultimate on the enemy team, as well, you might not even get a chance to see him use it on the Dragon if his entire team dies. Prior to that, Secret's gonna die as well, and Doran's just looking to go 1v5. The perfect equalizer is gonna catch everybody, as you can say goodnight now. Nobody on the side of APK will be able to get out of this one except Flawless, who just runs with his tail between his legs, DragonX have taken back the Rift in their own very aggressive style.
And it just doesn't look like this game is most certainly over. Mountain Dragon, as well as, or Mountain Soul, as well as Baron buff, it's just not going to matter for APK. And so this was a very bizarre series of events in this game. It was APK coming out the gate with a really strong draft. But then, even though everything was stable early on, they ended up getting the first blood up in top lane. They elected into some very bizarre fights that just spiraled the game out of control. They got a little unfortunate down there in the bot one against the Tahm Kench Devour, but that was obviously a byproduct of how Soraka chose to use her spells. As we take another look, and there's just nothing that they can do right now. I don't even know why they're starting the Dragon instead of trying to poke down, but they did not play towards what they should have been looking to achieve in this game. And DRX won every lane individually and then just out-muscled them, as well as mind-controlled them into taking very...
wow, they're very powerful.
Very, yeah.
Yeah. They have the ability to mind control the enemy team, but honestly, it does feel like this is what has been plaguing APK for so long. I mean, they do really well in the early game. They get first turrets, they make decent calls, and then the mid game hits and they're like, nothing can hold them back. It doesn't matter what kind of comp they have. They see the enemy and they try to attack, and it usually doesn't work out for them. So you really need to look at, you know, the shot calling and the decision making from the team in the mid game, I'd say, as the biggest thing for them to try to improve on, as they're obviously not a bad team. It's just that they're struggling here at the pro level to really find any kind of consistency in the mid game.
Yeah. Definitely a bit difficult for them here, as there's no chance they can hang on to this game.
Well, they're going to give it a try as Deft being knocked up, but it does not matter. Ziggs Bomb not going to do enough damage and poked down from so far away by the Senna, as it is just a massacre.
Way too far ahead, yeah.
It's just a massacre. There's nothing that they can do, as 14,000 gold in the lead is going to go larger, as 18-2 is going to be the kill store, as DragonX will look to push and end this game.
This was a bit of a stomp. This is,
yeah.
I mean, it was a close game. You know, close in the sense that DRX's champions were very close to APK's at many points inside of this game, so.
Yeah, well.
It's all about how you look at it, Valdez.
Absolutely, it's all about perspective. It's a learning opportunity for the side of APK. See how I'm using perspective?
Yeah.
As, yeah, I mean, that was just a kind of straightforward game from DragonX. They had some troubles in the early game, but they quickly got over that and eventually moved on to crush the team that, on paper, they are a much better team than, as it is, what is it, 3rd place up against 10th place right now, I think.
This is very akin to their games against T1 even. And even Gen G, as well as just, I know that it's not the same team, but it does have a lot of similarities to the Griffin of yesteryear, in the sense that the draft doesn't seem to impact them as much in their games because their players are all just winning. And then they're mechanically so sound that they're able to outmuscle themselves out of certain situations. The only gripe with this is that once you get onto even footing, or you make it to the end of playoffs and you're in best of 5s or something like that,
and finals.
It starts becoming more important. And then ultimately, if you do make it to Worlds, that's where things start to get very difficult for stuff like this. But they smashed APK in game number 1, and that is a very demoralizing loss.
Yeah. It's a demoralizing one, might be even a little bit tilting, as it started off looking really nicely for the side of APK, but they just got absolutely pummeled into the ground after it got past, 12, 15 minutes into this game. First couple of pushes weren't bad. They take first turret. They're trying to poke. They're not overstepping their boundaries. They're not over-engaging. And then it was like a light switch. Then they were. Someone was calling like, we're going in, guys. And It was just obviously not the right call, and DragonX were just able to outplay them.
Well, we'll see what they can manage to do in game number 2, because if they couldn't pilot that one to victory, I don't have a lot of confidence for game number 2.
Honestly, yeah, it's kind of turning out the way we might have expected it on paper. As guys, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, game number 2.
아 물렸다. 아 많이 버티네. 나 거의 안 죽는 목숨이긴 하거든. 소라카지 있을 걸. 소라카지 있을 걸. 나 직접 공격할게.
야, 기동 가능. 야, 갇혔어.
이렇게
역시 내 기둥이야.